So there I was on a beautiful Cinco de Seis. It's the 6th of May. And I was driving down the road and I was saying to myself, we gotta do something. Right? And so this something is this video, right? And I've thought, I've given a lot of thought and prayer to what I want to say to the both of you, and I really hope that it's received. I hope it comes out, with a little bit of humility, man, and it's received, with the heart and with the intention of what it is, because what it is an attempt to find a way to get on the same page, like the three of us, not just for the sake of the kids, but I mean because we're adults, and because like I care about Parisa, and I want her to be happy, and I need you guys' marriage to succeed, right? I need you guys to model for my kids, for my boys, what a good marriage, what a healthy marriage looks like, what two people who love each other, look like, man, because we didn't do such a good job of it. I don't believe that needs to come at the expense of me. I don't believe that it needs to come at the expense of my rights as a father, and I believe that it has up until this point. And so I want to be really careful about like what I say and how I say it and how I come across, because it's important to me that you guys know that I'm serious, and that this isn't like a joke to me. Like, this isn't funny. And so I'll give you the brief rundown of kind of the way I see, and it's important that I do that. Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions, that are out there, like about me, about where I've been, about what I've been up to, and my role in this family, and basically, Texas started out as like a last-ditch effort on my behalf to try to put my family back together. Right, and obviously by the time like you kind of came into the picture, like that, it probably wasn't going to happen, and I had understood that, but just understand, like I hope you understand that, like I love my wife, and I love my family, and I wouldn't go as far to say it's not my fault that things ended up the way they did, man, because ultimately I'm a grown man, and it all falls on my shoulders, and I'm responsible for all of it, but I have the worst luck fucking anybody's ever fucking had, but a brief history is Parisa came back after we had split, after she had sold my house, while I was in jail illegally, and kept all the money, which is why I don't pay any child support. If you don't believe me, I will show you our divorce papers, which state I don't pay child support and alimony because somebody sold my house and kept all the money. A house that, me and my dad had put $165,000 down on. And I won't get into, like that's a real sore subject. But like, she came back, and I was a pastor. I was teaching at our church, and I was a Little League coach, and I was on the board of directors for the Michigan Valley Cowboys. I was managing a few foundations. I was about to launch a church with my buddy Aaron, and I was, kind of like an esteemed member of society and a, public figure that a lot of people looked up to. And, you know, life was, life was a lot different, man. And, I'm sure you heard, um, one day, out of the blue, at a church event, some jackass who will go unnamed, who happens to fucking rent your house out, decided to come up and put me in a chokehold. And I don't blame Brad, like I kind of blame Brad, because who fucking does that? Seriously, like who? Whatever. He couldn't have known, and I didn't even know, like what would have happened, everything that went down after that. So like I can't blame him. Um, but the truth of the matter is he choked me out, and I went into like a really severe PTSD, um, you know, breakdown, and that lasted for a few months, and nobody knew what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. We all thought it was like a bipolar manic episode, and I got prescribed a bunch of meds that I shouldn't have been on, and those made me suicidal, and I was, I freaked out, man, and I started drinking a lot, and I was just spiraling out of control, and that's not what Priest came back, expecting, in her defense, man, I was losing it, man, like, and I couldn't get a grip, and I couldn't figure out why, and going, like having this fall from grace, like, you don't understand, man, like I was like the poster boy for like reconciliation at my church, man, and everybody looked up to me, and now I'm like, three sheets to the wind, and um, and I let my family just kind of like slip through my fingers, and I don't blame Parisa for leaving. I wish she hadn't. That's just life, and she did, what she had to, and I understand why, because I was, I was in a bad place, I was just getting worse. Um, but I like to believe that, that she didn't want to go, and like she did the best she could, and what are you gonna do? You know, my reaction to that, was pretty bad, and I, had to go to rehab. And when I got out of rehab, my, plan of attack was to dive into the Suicide Foundation, man. And looking back, that wasn't a very smart, decision, and it made things a lot worse. Um, but we had this dream, man, that like, what if, man? What if we could get to the middle of nowhere, and where nobody knew us, and we could just start over, just us and our family, like it was like a little daydream that we used to have. And so what you guys are living in is the manifested realization and dream of me and three little boys who thought it would be cool to live down the street, from the Dallas Cowboys, like in a ranch, like in a house that had, like horses, and enough room to build a baseball field, and in a little town, where people loved God, and Ain't that some shit, man? Um, I was supposed to come like right after, Parisa, and I had a scholarship to SAGU, and um, I had a $15,000, student loan that was I could use on anything, man. It was supposed to be used for my housing, and um, my first day of school, I was supposed to, go to school and then, grab the check, and my dad gave me like a check for like $200 too to put me off until, um, the 15,000 cleared, and what ended up happening was my older brother, um, kind of sabotaged me, and he told him that, there was no school and it was all a lie, and my dad kind of panicked and, canceled the loan, and I ended up at a Jack in the Box, after my first day of school, with $30, and Megan and Priest had agreed that, I wasn't going to be allowed to stay at the house, and I was like, I think two or 3 weeks clean, and instead of getting clean and getting a house, and going to seminary, I had to go back to that nightmare, man, and I rotted in a garage, for a year, screaming at dead people, and um, dying, and I came out there a few times, to see them, and I wish I'd never, gone back, but by the time I had gotten up the nerve to drive myself, um, another thing was I got in a car accident, man, a while ago, and I killed somebody, and I had to go to prison for that, and so the idea of driving alone across state lines, it was terrifying, man, and the trip was brutal. I got halfway and just started freaking out, man, and got stuck in Arizona, and just like fighting with Parisa, and then, Chantelli's like, I hate you and don't come out here, and then I broke down in New Mexico. It was just a nightmare, man. But I was trekking it because because of the lockdown, the pandemic, and um, and because Parisa was like, she was worried about me, and she was just like, hey, just come out here, like, we'll figure it out. And I didn't know you guys were as serious as apparently you were. Like, I had thought that meant she wanted me to come out there, and then, like, I was gonna spend the lockdown, with her and the kids. And so that's what I came out, with the expectations of, and whether or not, she gave me that impression on purpose, or or it's just something that I kind of came up with, like, that's that's what had been going on in my head, and I was a little shocked when I found out that you had moved in, and obviously put a little damper on things. So instead of spending the lockdown, as a family, I had to go to a fucking little room by myself, and coming off a bunch of fucking drugs, and dealing with the fucking ghosts of fucking 130 families that I'd walked through, their loved one's suicide, and having to reflect on my life, and know that my family's like living right up the street, in our little dream house with some other guy, and so that's how Texas started for me, and to be honest, man, I did try to like see my kids a lot, and I was told I wasn't allowed to see them. I wasn't allowed to take them anywhere. I had to stay at the house, and it had to be when you were there. So basically, like, she was telling me that I was gonna have supervised visits with my kid with some dude that like I didn't know you, and like that, it wouldn't have been a good idea. Like, that was bad. I don't even know why she proposed it. But then like, I kind of I just tried to give you guys as much space as possible. I wasn't really set up, to take the kids. And to be honest, I'm kind of, a little afraid of my kids. Like afraid. Like I went from being, you know, this superhero, and somebody that everybody looked up um, to a junkie. But like I got, like don't get fucked up, man. Like I got joint custody. I have, joint legal and joint physical, which means at any time I can come take my kids right out of class and take them anywhere the fuck I want, right? Obviously, I wouldn't do that, and the reason I haven't done anything like that is because, they've been through enough, like they've been through like a lot, and I don't want to put them through anything more. But like I said before, man, I don't want that to come at the expense of my rights as a father. And you know, I felt like, like I wanted to give you guys, like space. I want, like during the holidays, man. First, my nephew, you know, gaffled up $1,800 from me, and once I got over that, I was like, well, like they probably, like I assumed you guys had, like the holidays mapped out, and it was something you guys were looking forward to, and it was your first year together as a family, and so I wanted to give you guys that space, man. And that mixed with the fact that, like I didn't have anywhere to bring them, plus I was a little, like timid about, like, seeing them and having them. All kind of, I'm sure it came across as like I didn't, like I was absent, um, and yeah, like I come out to California a lot, man. I'm just like, fuck, man. I sit in a room by myself, thinking about my life and thinking about my family and how, like, who I used to be. And fucking sucks. Like this whole Texas thing really backfired on me. But I don't want to bring them back to California. But I don't want to, like I don't want to be punked out either for my kids, and I was real close, man, like to having the feds get involved. I actually had an appointment, and I talked to them, and I decided that's not the route that I want to go, and they actually, they told me, they're like if you want, to get your kids back, like by all means, like that's the route that we can go. But they were like, but I mean, what's that going to do to your kids? And I mean, they're right, like I don't think that would go over well for me at all, to have Parisa arrested and extradited back to Orange County to sit in front of a judge and have him say, you guys did fucking what? I'm sure you'd yell at both of us, right? I don't think judges really like us in Orange County. This is a mess that we got ourselves into, in precinct, like you fucking, you are just you are just as guilty as I am, right? There is a website called The Family Wizard that your wife, Phil, refuses to get on. And the Family Wizard is designed for people who have communication problems, and it makes sure that you can't delete anything, but it also puts kids' schedules and it allows parents to communicate. We had something like that set up like 15 years ago, right? And we didn't use it. We just ended up blowing it out of the water. So Parisa's claim is that like, oh, you won't use it, like. How would you know? Because like you've never even signed up for it, right? I've given you money to sign up for it multiple times. I think it might be best, like it would be best, one, to protect your marriage, to make sure that, there's appropriate communication between us, and two, so that I don't feel bullied, because, I'm working on, the way that I respond to people, um, but I have an accomplice here, and Phil, I'll get into that in just a minute, but I mean, um, Parisa and I, believe it or not, like we're actually, like, the way we communicate now is, is a lot lot better, and that's sad because it's not saying much. Um, but believe that I don't just fly off the handle for no reason. I'm usually instigated, and so is she, and that doesn't make it all right. And like I said, I'll get into that in a minute. Um, you know, but there's been, some pretty rotten things said, that I wish I hadn't, and Parisa said some pretty horrible things to me, and the problem is, and I don't know if you guys have ever studied like psychology or relationships and shit like that, but the way abusive relationships, end up that way, like they never start, abusive. What happens is, you set the bar, right? And the first time you call your wife a bitch, right? And like, and she doesn't leave, right? You set the bar right here, And so next time you're in a fight, that's like right where you go, right? And you call her a bitch, right? Or the first time she hits you, and you don't say, hey, that shit is not okay, and you don't fucking cut it off. Hey, that's where the relationship immediately escalates to, right? And the first time somebody, like, just fucking lights up their fucking life, if they don't leave, then what their spouse is saying is like, that's acceptable, like, but it's a gradual thing, right? And it takes a while. Parisa and I, like, eventually over time, fucking, like, the bar just ended up like so fucking high that, I mean, like, if, like, say we were late fucking dropping off the kids, it was like, I fucking hate you, I hope you fucking die, like, and it's not okay just because, like, I'm explaining it, and saying like, this is, how, but that's kind of what's happening, is there's so much raw emotion, like, that's never been resolved. Is that, our bar was like way up here, and so, I mean, like, even coming down here is pretty fucking intense. um you know I think it's, better than fucking up here. It's not acceptable, like, the way I talk to her, and the way that we talk to each other. But we're getting better. I think we're getting better, and I've seen a lot of growth on Parisa's part, to where she disengages, and it encourages me because it makes me want to disengage. But still, like, we're dealing with a lot of raw emotion here, and so I asked, for grace, in that regard. I asked for, you know, compassion, and you have my word that as a man, I understand that, you got to protect your wife, right? And if somebody was talking to my wife like that, I wouldn't appreciate it, and I would say something too. And so you have my word as a man that, um, I'm going to do everything I can to communicate with Parisa in a way that, honors her and respects her, as a woman, and as a sister in Christ. And what I'm going to ask, of you is obviously for the benefit of the doubt, to assume that, like, I'm not, whatever it is you said I was, you got some big shoes to fill, I was a really good dad, like a really good dad, and hanging around my kids for a year doesn't make up for, like, doesn't trump the, 12 years that I busted my ass for those kids, like, I changed my life. I changed everything for those kids. I sacrificed everything. I broke my ass for that family. Like, I stayed up all night watching, like, psychology videos, and, I audited classes at Saddleback, for child development, and child psychology, so that I would understand, like, how to be a good dad. And Parisa and I have been to, like every time we had a kid, we went to parenting classes and spiritual parenting classes, and we came up with, parenting, like a lot has been poured in, um, you know, so that those kids are the amazing little kids that they are. I didn't know anything about baseball, and I saw baseball as something that me and Daniel could do together. So I mean, like, I would stay up all night watching YouTube, and just watch hours and hours and hours of YouTube about like how to teach baseball, how to coach baseball, and I became like the greatest fucking coach ever. Um, you know, the family that you know and love, is like it's a byproduct of a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice and a lot of heart, that I put in. And so to dismiss all that, um, and say that, like you're showing my kids, what a real dad looks like, like it's like humorous almost, man. You got a lot more, to show. Um, and I like you for the most. I did like you, um, you know. But lastly, like, don't ever threaten me again, And I'll put this, with as much humility as I can. Um, like I'm not intimidated. Um, you can't beat me. I spent 12 years training martial arts. I'm a third degree brown belt. Shaolin Kempo, like competitive tournament fighting. I've never lost a tournament. I either got disqualified or I won. I grew up playing hockey. Like I spent all my teenage years like living on the streets, running around with a gun, fucking shooting at people and getting shot at. I graduated from juvenile hall to the penitentiary, right? And I walk on the 4-yard, right, where the killers and and the high profile people go. Like I've been in probably 3 dozen fights, and um, you add all that plus the amount of like raw emotion, that you represent, um, and the odds, if we got down of you like kicking my ass or whatever you said was going to happen, like, that's not going to happen, bro. Chances are I wouldn't even feel anything. It's not because I'm tough, not because I'm like fucking Chuck Norris, but because I got, so much fucking rage and just, so much adrenaline. It's like retard strength, you know. Um, it's not like cool. It's not like, like I'm some badass. But just know, like I've spent my life behind this image, of a tough guy, dude. In this image of, this badass. And there's a lot of stories about me back home, and it's, I'm not that anymore, but it's, like it's not that it went away or it just, I'm trying to be something different, man. I'm trying to be a pastor. I'm trying to live a different life. Um, and so obviously that shit really struck a nerve, and my response to you, obviously was, was just as bad, like it's like little kid shit, like we got to be bigger than that. We got to be adults, um, and I don't want to feel, threatened, I don't want to feel like I'm not okay, like I said, man, I don't even really go to bars because I don't want to be around drunk people, um, because I got an anger problem. I got, like my temper tantrums, like fucking are real bad, and if I, like I don't want to feel like in the least bit like not okay, and if I do, like then fear responds, and then fear comes out, and um, insecurities come out, and that's when grown men get stupid, right? And it's not my intention to get stupid, like I ain't trying to be a tough guy, man. I don't give a fuck, you know. Um, I just want to be a good father, to my kids, and you know, and if that, that means I gotta have my pastor fucking, escort me to fucking games, just to make sure that, like, I'm okay. Like, that's kind of humiliating, man, but that's what I'm willing to do. Um, because it's not worth it to me, um, you know, to lose my shit, in front of a bunch of people, in front of our kids, and humiliate my kids and embarrass them, and I'm not exactly emotionally stable right now, um, and it sucks, you know, um, so please, like, don't ever threaten me again. Like, you want to throw down, like, hey, we can go in your backyard, and if you want to, like, go just toe to toe, like, you won't like the end result, but I mean, like, fuck it, like, let's do it. But from what I gather, from what like, that's not what you want either, right? And so I'm hoping that we can come to terms, and like I said, man. As for the taxes thing, let's just get that out in the open. Like, I'm gonna claim Dylan and Timmy every year on my taxes, just like I have every year before this, right? Um, when Daniel and Chantelli turn 18, then we'll, like, split them up again. Or when Chantelli turns 18, like, but I mean, that's what we agreed on, right? Pretty solid, fuck, dude. We agreed on that, and we agreed on that because when you didn't even have a job, I had to split my damn taxes with you, right? Um, when you came back, we spent our whole tax return on a damn car that you freaking killed because you're the car killer. Oh yeah, hey Phil, you didn't know that? You didn't know you married a car killer? Yeah. Um, like, and that's it, dude. Like, I know they live with you guys, but like, I cared for them for like 12 years, right, with no help whatsoever, and um, you know, if that's something we got to take up in court, like, that's fine. Um, but as for, like, how much money I give you guys, um, never has Parisa ever asked for something that I've said no. And I'm proud of that. It's not like she ever needed something, and I was like, no, tough shit. Like, I have the money, I'm not going to give it to you. Like, if I have it, like, it's yours. I give a fuck, dude. Like, I can always come up with more money, and that's, I wish you guys would understand that. Like, I make money. Like, I'm good at fucking make money, right? And if you guys need help financially, then you need to come to me and fucking say, hey man, like, we're struggling, we need help, right? Um, Me filing them on the taxes, like I didn't fucking care, about the stimulus money. I didn't care, like, you know, it bothered me that it was about that for you, you know, and it bothered me um, that even after I was like, fine, fuck it, like, here, have it, like, and I gave you $3,000 that you would keep my kid from me, right? And that's where I have a fucking serious problem, like, I'm not gonna be extorted, and I'm not gonna be bullied, right? You guys aren't gonna hold my kids hostage from me. I don't think you want to, like, I like to think that you don't want to, um, but the way I see it, man, it is basically like I'm being kind of like 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 you guys are leveraging my kids' well-being versus, like, my rights as a father, and the only reason that I haven't been able to do anything is because it would disrupt their sane and safe and stable living environment, which I appreciate that you've worked hard to establish, but like that doesn't come at the expense of, like, my rights as a father, right? I'm not on drugs. I'm not, like, I'm still not really all that well, um, but I'm very capable of, being a father and having them, as my rights dictate, and I don't think it's healthy that, I just go in and take them for, 50% of the time, um, but know that, like, very shortly, I'm gonna be getting a house, and, like, fucking, I don't know if I'm gonna get a house. It's impossible to get a house out and fucking walks at you. But when I do, I'm gonna be expecting my kids. Probably 3 days, a week, like, or 3 days every other week, or maybe 4 days every other week, and then, gradually work up to, like, 1 week on and 1 week off. Like, that's the way it is. That's the way the courts have laid it out. And until the courts change that, that's how it's going to be. And I don't see the courts, like, changing that. Like, I haven't done anything that would warrant them to change that. So that's something you guys got to, you guys got to, kind of talk about and pray about, or whatever. But those are my kids too, right? And I held this family together for a real long time, and it fell apart, and that ultimately, it ain't Brad's fault. It ain't fucking Priest's fault, it's my fault, um, and I gotta live with that for the rest of my life, man. I gotta live with the fact that, my forever, it is somebody else's now, and that's a tough pill to swallow, right? But if you guys really, love me and you really care about me, then know that, like, I don't do well without my kids, man. The further away from my kids I am, the less likely I'm gonna be able to, like, pull out of this, man. And the enemy is coming at me, man. He's coming at me in every single, uh, like, way, every single shape. Like, I had a heart attack back in January, man. I just had fucking some surgery and some tumors fucking removed, and like, he is desperate to keep me out of Texas, and I'm pretty sure I know why. Like, and the more healthy I get and the stronger I get, like, emotionally and mentally, the more he's panicking, right? I don't like that. I'm gonna fuck, right? I'm gonna fuck some shit up, right? I'm destined for an amazing, traumatic finish, to the adventures of Randy McEwen. I think our kids are gonna be a part of that, man. Like they've been blessed, man. Like, you guys have been blessed. We've all been blessed, and I feel like we need to grow up and really fucking, like, figure out how to make this work, man. Um, you know, I think there's a lot that I could bring to, like, to your family. Like, there's a lot of ways that I'd like to help you guys. You know, grow, like, spiritually, and financially, if you need help like that. For the life of me, I cannot understand why you guys are, like, you both just bust your ass and make nothing. Like I'm a really good business development coach. Like, I take people from, like, nothing to making, like, over $100,000 a year. Ask Kim Hart. It's what I do, man. Like, if we were on the same page, like, then you guys wouldn't struggle financially. And that's not a knock against you. That's not saying, like, you guys don't make enough money, but I know you're struggling, right? And I can help you with that, man. And I would love to, like, and if you don't want me to, that's cool too. I don't care. You know, but like, I'm worried about the spiritual leadership and direction of my kids, because that, for a long time, that's been me, right? And so it's hard for me to let go of that. And that's not to say that, like, that feel like you can't lead my family, like, by all means, like, you better fucking lead my family, right? But as you can understand, like, fuck, man, when something's been your responsibility for so long, it's hard to hand that off, right? It's hard to let go of that. And I don't think it needs to be handed off. I think there's a way that the three of us can be, like, kind of like a powerhouse unit, in a way that honors your marriage, in a way that supports everybody, and helps bring your kids up to speed, like, with with their spiritual gifts and what they do best, and how they see God, But you guys gotta kind of trust me in a few areas, and I gotta trust you in a few areas, man. I gotta feel like, like you guys aren't out to get me, right? And you guys gotta believe that I'm not as insane as you think I am. And I'd like for us to get on the same, on a page like that. And it's probably going to take some time, and I don't expect you guys just to watch this fucking video and be like, oh, I fucking love you, but I want to let you know, like, where I'm at, with all this, and, like I said, man, this has not been easy for me. Like, this is a fucking nightmare, man. I can't think of a worse nightmare. There isn't a man on the face of this earth that loved his family more than me. And there's a man who loved your wife more than me. Understand that. Know that and believe that. And believe that, I want what's best for my family, and I understand that my marriage, is over. I get that, and that our family is never going to be the way it was. And I want to give you guys, the freedom and the space to grow and to learn, and to love. And maybe one day, I can find somebody too. Probably not anytime soon, I mean, bitch, that's crazy. Fuck them, they're all crazy. Even the one that owns this fucking crazy. Anyway, 42 minutes, That's what everybody wanted to do on a Thursday night, right? Is watch Randy McEwen, right? Hey, this is like how long a sermon would take, right? Yeah, it was entertaining, right? God was here, right? Elohim, God in us, through us, with us. Anyways, let me pray out. Is that weird? I always thought it was weird, like if you're watching a sermon and then they're like, let's pray, like they're not actually praying at that moment. So I mean, anyways, Heavenly Father, coming to this place, coming to this household, and just put your hand on everybody's hearts, God, and let us be quick to hear and slow to speak. Let us hear, and let's try to feel, where everybody's coming from, and so we can better understand each other and better serve you and better learn about you and love you. And God, God, I hand over my wife and my family, and I entrust them to this man, with an open heart and with a contrite, spirit, in a spirit that, of humility and grace, God, and I pray that you equip him and you give him the wisdom and the knowledge and the patience and the love, to carry on, what I started. And I pray that, my kids, know and love him, and that they grow up to feel like, that he is a father to them. And I pray that you bless, their marriage, and that you put your hand, over it as a seal of protection. Amen.